The Moonveil Katana has always been my one true love, but this new Starline Katana is quickly becoming close to that #1 spot in my heart. Not only is it a magic katana, but its 7-hit combo Ash of War is absolutely deadly. Let's go. I've got an idea for a strength and a dex build, as well as a poison thing I've been tinkering with as well. Let me know which one you would like first in the comments down below. Now, this is my current playthrough build. As I mentioned in the intro, the Moonveil Katana has always been my one true love, and just that classic Moonveil Mage build is sort of what I took into the DLC and what I first played the game with and what I've always sort of stuck with, and it felt right to take this into the DLC. And I have been playing this on my main playthrough, but then I come across this beautiful katana and I was like, well, I've got to try it, right? And damn, the Ash of War on this is absolutely insane. So it's called Onze's Line of Stars, and I'm probably saying that terribly wrong, but essentially what this is it's a multiple hit combo. So you essentially slash twice and then you trigger it again, you get another slash, then you do an overhead swing, and there's a brief pause where if you trigger it again, you'll do a teleport in the air and then come down with this massive overhead slash that hits both on the swing down and then on the swing over as well. So it does work out to be 7 hits or something in the one combo, and every hit after the first one does increase damage. As the text says, it's dealing greater damage than the last hit, so it continues to ramp up in that damage. Now you can do an insane amount of damage just with this Ash of War, right? And because it is an Ash of War, you can buff it with all of those beautiful talismans, the magic talismans, because it's a magic attack, all that fantastic stuff. And I also am just a fan of the katana moveset. It's just what works best in my measly little brain, and I guess it's probably because I have used the Moonveil Katana so much that this just fits perfectly into this build. I've been able to switch to it with changing up some of my stats and stuff a little bit to more compensate for some of the differences with this katana, which we'll get into in a little bit in this video, but that's essentially what we've done. Now, if you want to get this katana, it is found in the Cerulean Coast on the beach by defeating a demi queen called Mariga, hilarious name. Now, you can get here essentially as soon as you get into the DLC, and I'll be showing you the path from the Castlefront runes right now. It does require a little bit of work, as you have to go towards the east and then drop down to this little area. And go through this cave, and then jump through the jumping puzzle, and then continue all the way down till you get to the coast. Once you get to the downstream side of Grace, hug the right wall and follow that pathway past the Wicker Man, and you'll see the gap that'll allow you to get to the Cerulean Coast. And I'll just let this footage run so you can sort of see. But the thing is here to note is that there is no actual bosses that you will come across during this pathway. It's just the Demi Queen boss that you have to fight at the very end. But the thing is, it's just a Demi Queen boss, right? We've all fought many of these before. Just take out the little demi humans surrounding her, and then you can sort of face her one-on-one, and it's just as easy as all the other ones are, with a little bit more HP, and just be wary of the magic attacks, but you should be able to defeat it relatively easily. So let's get into the equipment for this set, right? Obviously the Starline Katana we've already talked about. I'm using the Carrion Regal Scepter, as I always am, and I've actually moved the Moonveil Katana into my offhand for a little bit of two-handing action. So I've got two katanas out to use that different moveset. just something that I'm like playing around with because I do like my Moonveil, and I'm wearing the Beast Champion armor because it's my favorite drip. So because this is my personal build, that's why we're wearing that. And for talismans, I've got the Dragon Crest Great Shield because enemies hit hard, the Shard of Alexander for obvious reasons, and the Magic Scorpion Charm to increase my magic damage, which you can switch this out for something else if you want to. Say if you wanted to run Millicent's Prosthetic along with the Rotten Wind Insignia, because you'll get that successive hit combo buff like halfway through the Ash of War, so those last attacks will do even more damage because you're getting that effect off as well. So you can switch to that, or you could run something like the Filigree Crest, or one of the newer talismans that were added as well. You've got a few options there, but I would definitely be running one of these successive hits talismans for that extra damage as well. Moving on to the spells, I'm using the Night Comet because it's my favorite spammable intelligence spell, and I've been tinkering around with the Glint Braid Trio, which I don't love it, but I don't hate it. It's not bad. It's all right. The Great Blade Phalanx is always in my intelligence builds because of its amazing potential and poise damage to knock enemies down as well. You don't get that same like combo you get off with like the Moonveil Katana's Transient Moonlight, but it still does deal a solid amount of stagger as well if you do want to run that. And I'm also using Rani's Dark Moon for the magic damage negation. It's a fantastic fight opener. Like, you don't get as many buffs in an intelligence build, and I always just like having Rani's Dark Moon to remove some of that magic damage negation that enemies have, just so that my attacks do a little bit more damage. And then I am running Undula's Moonblade if I do want to then trigger Frostbite on top of that, right? Because you get a little bit of build up from the Dark Moon, and then a couple of Moonblades will then get you a Frostbite trigger as well if you wanted to go that route. For attributes, I've got 50 Vigor and 30 Mind, though you can get a little bit more Mind if you choose to. I just feel like I don't need it for this build. And for Endurance, I've got 40 because you can't go wrong with extra stamina plus equip load when you're playing around with weapons. For Strength, you don't really need Strength, and Dexterity is what the Starline Katana mainly scales with. So I have got 55 Dexterity here, though I am hitting that breakpoint for Intelligence at 68 because I do want the Rani's Dark Moon. So I have bumped a lot into Intelligence. The scaling there is very similar between the Moonveil and the Starline Katana. It's just that the Starline Katana slightly leans more Dexterity compared to the Moonline. Like, you can actually see in my armaments list on that screen that I'm doing slightly more damage with Moonveil compared to the Starline because I've got more of that Intelligence, but it's very similar and negligible. But if you do want to change your build up a little bit and min-max it by getting more Dexterity, you absolutely can, but that's what I've chosen to go with for my general setups there. And then tips for this build for buffs, I'm running Radahn's Great Rune for the extra HP, FP, and stamina. In my Flask of Wondrous Physique, I've got the Thorny Cracked tier for successive attacks damage buff, as well as the Magic Shrouding tier for the extra magic damage from doing the Ash of War, and then a Golden Vow Dagger because why not? So you get the 3 sort of combo to start the fight, and then as soon as I enter the combat arena, I'll then use Rani's Dark Moon for that magic damage negation, and then you can start the fight. But for general like combo usage here, like, you may miss some of the attacks, but I would just keep the combo chain going because you do get a bit of a gap closer from like the last teleport when you come down to slam, and that is the attack that does the most damage. So you want to make sure you hit that one and not break the chain, like, unless you're going to take damage, right? But if you're not going to take damage, then just keep that chain going to then get that massive attack off at the end. And I do sometimes switch to the Moonveil Katana in my main hand and go with like the classic Great Blade Phalanx and Transient Moonlight stance break combo on certain enemies that kind of need to break their stance just to like keep the pressure on, because the DLC enemies are very aggressive, and so being able to break their stance to follow up with critical hits and stuff and just sort of keep that pressure on is really good. It's also what makes this Ash of War on the Starline really good as well, because it is that like chain combo. Get a little bit of that stagger off as well to like prevent them from getting into their super long chained combos, which seems to be a general theme of this DLC. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but basically every enemy has like a 3 to 7, 8 hit combo that they try to get off on you in like every fight encounter. Even the basic Mesmer soldiers have probably killed me more times than I'd like to admit, but the DLC has a lot of those enemies. So having a high pressure build like this that you can continually spam an attack or something to sort of attack them before they attack you sort of thing is obviously really good. And just make sure that if you're not wearing this armor as well, that you do have above that 51 breakpoint for your poise, so you can actually just continue the chain going and then sort of weaving in spells like Great Blade Phalanx as I see fit. Like when you do get those moments in between, like when the enemy sort of backs off off or you back off, and then you can like get the Great Blade Phalanx prepped and maybe cast another Dark Moon if you've got time for it, or like Night Comet if you're just like staying in the back line and spamming, which is obviously great to do. Like it's one of my main things that I do with Night Comet is like whittle down enemies from distance, like, you know, when you get sort of stuck in that moment where they're not doing too much, which doesn't happen as much in the DLC, but it does happen sometimes that, you know, you just need that little bit of extra damage off when you do get a bit of distance between you and the enemy. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Onze, and I hope you have a great day.